Since becoming seriously involved in politics, Donald Trump has frequently been associated with bold rhetoric. And one of his most consistent targets has been China. In nearly every speech, campaign, or media statement, Trump has portrayed China as a major threat to the U.S. economy and geopolitical standing. To him, China is not just an ordinary competitor, but a threat that must be fully contained. While the word hate might sound extreme, it's undeniable that Trump's stance and approach toward China have been notably harsh and uncompromising. From imposing large-scale tariffs, initiating a trade war, to accusing China of being the main cause of the COVID-19 pandemic. All these actions reflect the depth of his negative views toward the country. But the question remains on why. What drives Trump to be so obsessed with pressuring and criticizing China? Is it merely a political strategy to gain domestic support, or does he truly believe that China poses a real threat to America's future? In this video, we'll explore the ongoing tensions between the two nations. One of the main reasons Trump targets China is due to the massive trade deficit. In 2018, the United States recorded a trade deficit in goods with China amounting to $419.5 billion US dollars. This figure highlights a significant imbalance in the trade relationship between the two nations. Trump has repeatedly claimed that the trade relationship is unfair and has questioned how China benefits from practices he views as unjust. In 2019, the deficit slightly declined to around $378 billion US dollars, yet the number remained extremely large. In several of his statements, Trump described the deficit as a form of fraud that harms the U.S. economy. To address this issue, Trump implemented stricter tariff policies. In response to the trade deficit, he launched a trade war with China, imposing tariffs on over $250 billion US dollars worth of Chinese products in 2018. The aim was to force China to improve its trade practices and create a fairer return for the U.S. However, even with these tariff policies, the U.S.-China trade deficit remained high. As of 2024, the U.S. trade deficit with China stood at $263 billion US dollars. Though this was a slight decrease compared to the previous years, it was still significant and remained a major issue in bilateral economic discussions. In April 2025, trade tensions between the U.S. and China reached a peak. President Donald Trump threatened to impose an additional 50% tariff on Chinese goods if China did not withdraw its retaliatory 34% tariffs on American products. These new tariffs would significantly increase the existing tax burden, bringing the total effective tariff on Chinese goods to nearly 104%. In response, China insisted on maintaining its 34% tariffs and refused to engage in further discussions with the U.S. on the tariff issue. China's Ministry of Commerce stated that the U.S.'s actions violated World Trade Organization (WTO) principles and could harm global trade. These tensions have already impacted global markets, causing a sharp decline in stock prices and raising concerns about inflation, particularly among U.S. consumers. This development marked a critical point in the U.S.-China trade war with broad implications for the global economy. Aside from the trade deficit, another key issue fueling tensions between the United States and China is the accusation of technology theft and intellectual property violations. Trump accused China of engaging in the theft of advanced technology and intellectual property from American companies, which he claimed harmed the U.S. economy and gave China an unfair competitive advantage. According to the Trump administration, China allegedly acquired valuable technology from U.S. firms through illegal means, including forced acquisitions, cyber espionage, and regulations requiring foreign companies to transfer their technology to Chinese partners. Trump believed such practices hurt innovation and U.S. economic growth and threatened America's global tech dominance. In 2018, the Trump administration alleged that China was involved in massive cyber espionage operations to steal valuable information from top U.S. tech firms. According to a report from the U.S. Department of Commerce, annual losses from intellectual property theft could exceed $600 billion US dollars. As part of efforts to address the issue, the Phase 1 trade agreement signed in 2020 between the U.S. and China required China to improve intellectual property protections and stop unauthorized technology transfers. However, many doubted China's commitment to honoring the agreement. with reports continuing to surface about ongoing violations. In 2024 and 2025, technology theft remained a hot topic in U.S. China trade talks. Cyber espionage and forced technology transfers from American firms to Chinese companies were reportedly increasing, and Trump threatened stricter sanctions against Chinese companies involved. He stated that the U.S. would not allow China to gain access to advanced technologies without fair compensation, and demanded that China respect the intellectual property rights of American companies. Beyond trade and technology, Trump sees China's economic rise as a serious threat to America's global dominance. From his perspective, China is not only growing rapidly economically, but is also expanding its influence in strategic areas, which concerns the U.S. as the world's leading economic power. One of China's major initiatives is the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, aimed at enhancing economic connectivity and infrastructure across Asia, Africa, and Europe. This initiative is viewed as a method for China to expand its political and economic influence in developing countries, potentially diminishing America's global sway. Additionally, China's progress in advanced technologies, particularly in areas such as 5G and AI, has further alarmed Trump. China, through companies like Huawei, has made significant advancements in 5G technology, seen as the foundation for future tech revolutions. China's dominance in these technologies could give it major advantages in economic power, cybersecurity, and global influence, as the technology can be used to access and manipulate vast amounts of data. Trump views this as a direct threat to U.S. national security and sovereignty, arguing that China's growing tech capabilities could enable it to monitor, control, and influence countries worldwide through its 5G networks. China's leadership in this tech sector is part of a broader push to dominate emerging industries crucial to the global economy, such as automation, robotics, and big data. Through his America First policy, Trump sought to counter China's rise by imposing economic sanctions and challenging international trade deals that favored China. This included efforts to block Chinese companies like Huawei and ByteDance from entering the U.S. market, and introducing tariffs and sanctions on Chinese products seen as detrimental to U.S. industries. Given China's rapid growth in both economic and technological fields, Trump believes the U.S. must act more aggressively to maintain its global dominance. He characterizes the competition as a modern-day Cold War, in which the U.S. must defend its position and interests with firmer, more strategic measures.